Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Transfer Roundup. So, in fact, this is actually meant to be a different video today, but because I don't have the full facts, I wanted to leave the other video until later in this weekend, so we will see what happens with that, and it will be an Overwatch League Roundup, so stay tuned for that one. Hopefully it will be pretty pog when it comes out, but we're going to go through the transfers here. There's been a lot of movement, actually. In fact, there's been some big movement in the Overwatch League, as I'm sure you will know, and it makes kind of makes things a bit interesting because there's been more activity in the Overwatch League than usual. So, also we've got movements in the top end of Korea and the top end of EU, but without further ado, let's get through this then. So, we start off with Phantom Wizard in China, where we see two moves. They have brought in a new team leader, Omi, and they have brought in a new Chinese support, ML14. I love that name has kind of made its way through the Overwatch ranks, ML and number, so that's really, really cool. But then we get to the Overwatch League stuff. So this was the retirement of Toronto Defiant support player Kelux, obviously from Denmark. It was a shame to see him go, but Toronto Defiant had a replacement lined up immediately. This is Cruz from the Paris Eternal. So Cruz has gone from the Paris Eternal to the Toronto Defiant, and Paris Eternal will be featuring quite heavily during this video, so keep an eye out for that one. With Paris Eternal losing Cruz, they wanted to replace him, obviously, so they brought in a Korean support player, Fielder, as I'm sure you all know. He came from GC Busan Wave. He's been unassigned for a little bit, but he was with GC Busan Wave, and he made quite the impression, playing all the way from Korea on 200 ping against the Philadelphia Fusion. So, yeah, looking like a pretty good pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion. Then we move on to Lucky Future, and this is Daydream coming into Lucky Future because we have Nuss, who was at Lucky Future. Obviously, remember Nuss from London Spitfire not too long ago. He is now retiring, so that's a shame to see Nuss go. But, again, Nuss was a really good player, unfortunately, and I thought he might have another shot at the Overwatch League, but he didn't seem to get it after leaving London Spitfire. So, it's a shame to see him retire, but again, it's not out of the ordinary to see players retire, and there'll be a couple of others in this video as well, including Swoon, or Swan, however you want to say it. Remember the Florida Mayhem main tank? He left a little while back, but he has been unassigned recently, and he is now retiring from the game as well, so there's another one gone, but there's not too many retirements in this one, so I suppose we can look on the bright side of things. Also, we have another movement at GC Busan Wave. This is them offloading the Korean support player Vipk, and he will no longer be assigned with GC Busan Wave and will no longer be assigned with the team, so we'll see what happens there. And to replace him, GC Busan Wave have brought in the Korean support Nachu, and GC Busan Wave wanted to make some changes because obviously they're not doing as well as they want to in Korea, and we'll see if this makes a difference. But moving to Europe, and we see a movement at HSL. This is them offloading the Israeli DPS way fast. He will no longer be assigned to a team, and he's had rather a short time at HSL, so clearly something is up there, but wish him all the best for the future, obviously. But moving over to North America, and we see a movement into the Saints. Obviously, the Saints have come up through the lower levels of NA Contenders and Open Division, and are now quite a force in NA, so yeah, interesting. But they have signed the American support player Panic, so that's going to be really, really interesting, and it seems that they are making moves once again. But now we switch back to the Overwatch League because, as we've been covering in recent weeks, the calamity at the Vancouver Titans will be covered in this video. So this was the coach Andante leaving the Vancouver Titans of mutual consent. And yeah, well, I think we already know how this all turns out, don't we? Anyway, moving on, and we come back to Europe here with Raw Esports taking on a new interim head coach. This is the German coach Duke from... He was with a player development coach role at Oblivione, so Raw Esports have now got an interim head coach, and I'm sure they'll be looking for a permanent replacement, unless Duke does very well, which he might just then get the job. But then we move back to Korea, where we see WGS Armament taking on the coach Laurie, so we'll see what happened there. Laurie was previously unassigned. Shoes Medicrew EU, obviously back in the EU, offloaded a coach this week. This is Scrivsy, the Irish coach, so he will no longer be assigned. And then, moving over to Australia, in fact, Sydney Drop Bears have in fact signed the Chinese DPS BRS. So that's actually a really interesting move, because I don't think there's a lot of Chinese players in Australia, in Australian contenders, if any, so that's pretty interesting. Then we have the Irish DPS player Grathan. I believe he was let go by a team last week. I think he was somewhere around Angry Titans or something, or their academy team, I can't quite remember, but he is now coming in at Sheer Cold. So they have a new DPS player to be working with, and Sheer Cold will want to try and push on in European contenders. Then we move back over to Korea with Gen.G, who have let go of their support player BE9. He will now be unassigned, and we will be talking a little bit more about Gen.G a little bit later on in the video. Then we come across, obviously, the movements of Vancouver Titans, obviously them letting go of their entire roster: Haxel, Somin-Su, Stitch, Fisher, Slime, Twilight, Ru Jae-hong, and Yang Won, alongside, remember last week that we reported Pajon and Janu. So, again, obviously, we don't, in this video, as time of recording, I don't have the new roster of the Titans, but no doubt, I'm sure everyone will know when it comes up. But, moving on, and Scion Esports have actually allowed their coach, Green Havoc, to take a two-way role with Scion Esports and Ex-Oblivione. So I believe that's cross-pond, because I believe Scion Esports is NA and Ex-Oblivione is EU. So that's actually a rather good pickup for Ex-Oblivione. Then also at Ex-Oblivione, they brought in two new players. This is the German DPS player Fee and the American tank player Vita. So that's two good pickups for Ex-Oblivione, and hopefully they can improve results, because they've been kind of nearer the bottom of the European contender scene right now. Moving back over to the Saints in NA, and we see that Krakalakin, the American tank player, and Juby, the American support player, have both left the team, and they will in turn be replaced by two Americans. This is the support player Mac and the tank player Guru. So Saints again making some moves in this week, and we will see how that affects them in contenders for week 3 main tournament actually. But also a movement in EU. This is Suna, the French DPS player, leaving Disaster, which actually he's now unassigned, and this actually caught me a bit off guard, because that's a bit weird. I'm not going to lie, because Suna only just joined up with Disaster because it was an amalgamation, I believe, of the old Eternal Academy lineup and the old HSL Esports lineup, and he's literally been there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and he's decided to leave, so that's rather surprising. Unless Suna has something else in the pipeline, I don't quite know why he's left, and he's not retired either, so that's a bit of a weird one. I'm not going to lie, that's a bit of a weird one from Suna, but we'll have to see what happens there. So, movements at Gen.G then, and two players are being let go from Gen.G, and they will be moving to Lucky Future. Lucky Future have got a lot of good players, by the way. So this is the tank Oberon and the DPS player Wakid. I'm sure you will be aware of Wakid, because he had a lot of time in the Overwatch League. And they will now be rolling out for Lucky Future. Another XL player playing for Lucky Future. There is a lot of XL players at that team. Damn, it's just a retirement home for Overwatch League players. It's crazy. But to replace those two players, Gen.G will be actually promoting two players from their Gen A lineup. Remember that Gen.G have a couple of academies. They have Gen A, Gen B, and Gen S, I believe. So I think they're actually the team with the most academies. And remember that Gen.G is actually an academy of Seoul Dynasty. So Seoul Dynasty have the Gen.G academy, and Gen.G have the Gen A, Gen S, and Gen B academies. It's crazy setup in Korea. But anyway, moving on, and the support player will be Quazid, and the tank player will be Toyu, coming up from Gen A to Gen.G, and we'll see how they do going into the main contenders tournament. And then, for our final outing to the Overwatch League in this video, it will be back to the Paris Eternal, because we have seen another retirement. This is the Portuguese DPS player Greyy. So he has cited kind of mental health issues. He's kind of mentally boomed out with Overwatch and all that sort of thing. It's not something uncommon, and we're seeing it a lot recently. It's very unfortunate, and I hope that, he finds some joy in something else outside of Overwatch. But he gave his all for his team. If you want to see a statement, if you can, because he gave his all. He stayed on a little bit longer than he would have because of for them losing Cruz and also losing Hip a little while back as well. He stayed on so the team wouldn't be short, but now he is leaving, and that leaves Paris with two supports. It leaves them with Fielder and FD God. So Fielder will continue to play for the Paris Eternal on that 200 ping at the moment, and we will see how he does. He did well against the Fusion last week, so I hope it's not too much of a downer for the Paris Eternal, but I still think the Paris Eternal could be in need of a backup support, so we will see what happens there. And the Paris Eternals lineup is now just a 7-man roster, which is a little bit smaller than it was, although we have to remember that XZ and Smex are both currently not playing for the Paris Eternal and are inactive because of health issues. Smex especially has had an operation. He's also had COVID-19. I know from, Smex is a really, really good guy and he doesn't deserve all that crap, to be quite honest with you. And XZ obviously is having neck issue, I think. So he's in South Korea. Sparkle will be coming through at the end of the month though, so that's a good thing to look forward to for the Paris Eternal. And to round out this video, we have someone coming in at Triumph in NA, and this will be a manager. This will be Imp. So congratulations to Imp for picking up a spot at one of the bigger teams in North America now, actually, Triumph. They started off the year as one of the smaller teams, I think, and now they're probably one of the biggest teams in NA now, Triumph, so that's really, really cool. But that rounds us out for this transfer roundup, and it's going to be really interesting to see the Overwatch League this weekend, see how Paris Eternal react to losing Greyy, although they weren't playing him, and also, obviously, with all this Vancouver Titans stuff going on, we'll see what roster they run out with. I don't know the roster right now, and hopefully we will get to know it very soon. If we don't already, I'd be slightly worried, because it's actually getting fairly late on a Friday when this video goes out. So, Vancouver, don't wait too long to announce it. Your fans have got to know your players before they step onto the flipping stage. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.